Um, but anyway, hey everybody, welcome. I am stoked to be behind the camera again. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I'm delighted to be joined by Stephen Zinsli, who has some really interesting data to share with us and some insights on his exciting new business as well. Today's topic is the ROI, or return on investment for employee wellbeing, and there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff in here. Stuff that resonates with me and some things we did last year at MyHR, and then it segues nicely into this report that Stephen will talk about. The flow is going to be, we'll do intros, remind you all who we are, or intro us if you haven't met either of us before. I'll give some headlines from an HR perspective. Stephen will dive into the details of the report, and then there's an opportunity for Q&A at the end, which we always enjoy. You're allowed to try and stump us. That's part of the deal. Our commitment to you is if we cannot answer you live, we will come back to you. And if we run out of time to answer all the questions, we'll come back in another forum, which leads nicely to housekeeping. We are recording this, so it will be published post-event. If you have to leave partway through, you can catch up. If you want to share it with friends, family, your kids, by all means, it will be there and available for you to do that. So without further ado, let's dive in. In terms of intros, let's start with me. I'm Jason. I'm the co-founder, co-CEO of MyHR. We are the HR platform for small and medium-sized enterprise. That's how we think of ourselves. We provide a highly customized set of outputs that is unlike anything else in market, and we do that through a combination of our amazing software and our incredible humans. So we are the HR department for SME, and we don't have any real direct competitor in that regard. We're 11 years old, believe it or not. We now operate in New Zealand, Australia, and as of recently Canada, which is incredibly exciting. We look after businesses from 2 employees through to about 1,000. So if you are a business that has no HR team, or one very stressed, very stretched HR individual just trying to do everything, we are the solution for you. It's great business. I love it. I could certainly never get a real job. And so, yeah, you're stuck with me for a little bit longer. Stephen, how about a bit of an intro on yourself and what you're up to at HealthNow?
Yeah, thanks heaps, Jason. And first and foremost, I just want to thank everyone for participating today and for having me along to be part of this conversation. Just to kind of give some background, obviously my name is Steve, and for all of my sins, I thought it would be a great idea to go and try and solve one of the largest problems in the world, and that's the affordability and accessibility of health and wellbeing. For me, it's actually a bit of a personal crusade. I grew up in a lower socioeconomic household, and due to that situation, my family had some troubles when I was young, and my parents were quite young, affording healthcare and wellbeing, and I wanted to be part of that solution. Initially, I thought I would go and solve that problem directly by becoming a clinician, and then realized you could treat more people through the hands of, oh, that's very awkward. I've just gone dark. I might take someone else to try and come and solve that problem. But yeah, so initially I thought I'd solve that problem by becoming a clinician, and then realized you could treat more people through the hands of others. So then I started a brick and mortar healthcare business, which we eventually scaled up to 15 clinics, 120 clinicians across 6 different disciplines, before realizing that I needed to be able to connect people with the existing infrastructure of the health system, both in New Zealand and globally, to be able to increase the accessibility there. With that being said, we wanted to try and work out who the primary beneficiaries of people's health and well-being were. And as everyone on this call would probably agree, considering we spend 33% of our time within the workplace, it's our employer. And we wanted to help employers and HR managers deliver employee health and well-being in a way that was individualized, equitable, and able to be received in the best possible way throughout diverse and distributed teams. So getting into the crux of what we are specifically, we're a platform, the delivery vehicle, so to speak, where an employer, an HR manager, a people leader can design their perfect program where they can choose the contribution amount and a dollar figure, choose where it can be spent based on sector specificity, and then provide every single one of their employees with an application that tells them exactly how much they have, where it can be spent, and then delivered through a payment card like we see on the screen. So it's as easy to pay for their employee health and wellbeing initiatives as it is to buy a cup of coffee. So back to you, Jason, to talk about the HR relevance.
Magic. I think that's awesome. It's a it's a problem needing a solution. I remember early days of MyHR and Xero were sort of at the, their early kind of rocket ship rise. And Rod Drury made a comment about that, seeing a lot of businesses that are kind of these solutions hunting for a problem, because people wanted to get into software as a service or saw this idea of tech as being something. I think what I love about your story is you've come from real world experience. You've operated at the end of it, that is the customer piece. You've identified a problem and developed a solution. That's pretty awesome. And out of the context of today, you've got a report out. I'll dive into the HR bit, but give us a bit of a overview of what this is. I know the details are coming, but who you've asked, the cohort, yeah.
I just think it's really important for business leaders and people leaders, especially those that are looking to, or that have a growth mindset, to constantly have access to the latest and greatest with respect to evidence. And so at HealthNow, we're committed to providing some of that evidence, that data out to the profession to be able to make those evidence-based decisions within their organizations to actually lead to both change with respect to health and well-being, but also organizational changes with respect to productivity and profitability, because at the end of the day, that's what the businesses want to see when you're delivering these experiences. So with that being said, we've developed this really awesome report. It's free to download. It's about 26 pages of absolute glory and pearls of wisdom. It's we don't participate in collecting the data. We actually pay for external researchers to do that work for us, to remove that conflict. But as you can see, we go through and we make it look nice and pretty, so it's a bit easier on the eyes when you're reading it late at night.
Yeah, I love some data, mate. Thank you. Let's dive into the sort of my intro piece, a bit of a chat about, things from an HR lens, why we're here, what's going on. I love this slide, and I love it because it speaks to something that we coined last year at MyHR, and I think the last time I did one of these, we were talking about it, and some of the audience were probably there. And that is a thing that we called the SME advantage. The SME advantage was all around that ability to tailor your benefits, your employee value proposition to your individual employees in a way that enterprises and large organizations of thousands of people just cannot. And it's a real distinct advantage in the employment market. We've talked about it a lot. And tailoring your benefits package to meet individual needs rather than, say, a blanket gym membership when 50% of your team don't want that, is a real key to, one of the benefits of being an SME employer. What this is telling us is that the data from employees is supporting that that's what they want, that they're looking for some choice and flexibility. They don't want to be part of a vanilla package that has assumed that their, the things they value are X, or that the things that will enhance their well-being are Y. It's giving them the choice to respond to what they want and what they most value. So look, the big companies have caught on, but I think still as an SME employer and as our audience and the people that we serve, this remains our distinct advantage. Simplicity, self-service, using technology to tailor those benefits. And today's session specifically is around health, but last year we talked about, a range of things, whether that's flexible working, whether it's part-time work, whether it is a health benefit, maybe in relation to a health insurance cover, whether it is a gym membership or whatever it might be. Every individual employee will have some needs that they are either not meeting themselves or would like to meet. And if we can help them do that, they will stick with us for longer. And that is backed by the data. The HR perspective, this one I find really interesting. And I'm going to jump to the bottom bullet point here around don't overlook your own health and well-being. And now I'm addressing the audience as your HR manager, because many of you are our clients. And this is so critical. If we are unhealthy as the business owners, our business will be unhealthy and so will our team. And I think, how guilty we can sometimes feel if you go, hey, I've got no meetings today. It's a beautiful day. Maybe I'll go fishing or play golf or read a book or whatever it is that you love, right? And we don't do that. We feel guilty about that. We feel like we're skiving off. Think about all those weekends you work. Think about all those times you're online at midnight trying to get stuff sorted for your business, adding up accounts, looking at numbers. Look after yourself. It starts with you. This is advice that we freely give to parents. That if you look after yourself, you're in a much better shape to look after your kids. But it so applies to us as business owners. So please start with you. Although we're talking about often employees and employee benefits, you're an employee of your business too. So that is critical to me. It's at the bottom, but for me, it's the number one call out. The next thing is we flip to the top and we talk about, providing a safe and healthy workplace. I mean, at its most basic kind of entry-level requirement, safety at work is a legislative requirement, right? It's the law. You don't do this and you're potentially heading to jail or facing a large fine. But if that's your start and end point, you will be left behind in the race for good people, right? Beyond that kind of minimum legislative requirement to provide a safe and healthy workplace, there is so much more than you can do. So take this as the base and kind of work upwards from that. Don't think about the law as the thing you have to work up towards, right? That is really the ticket, the entry-level piece, that most basic hygiene factor. And I think what's really critical here is the culture of openness and support, and then trusting your people. So those two, to me, go together. This is particularly interesting right now. We're getting heaps and heaps of inquiries about return to work. Do we still keep working from home? What is the policy on return to work? Jason, are you seeing companies force their people to come back? The first thing I just want to call out for some of the audience is this problem exists almost exclusively to office workers and professional services, right? You're not building a house, milking cows, or waiting tables from your bedroom through a Zoom call. So it's often presented as this is a problem for the entire workforce of the world. It's a problem or it's not a problem so much as an issue to be resolved for the computer-based, office-based type of workforce. So let's focus on who we're talking about. The answer here comes in and around to trust, right? And it's almost shifting your mindset from an input focus to an output focus. So does it really matter if someone is doing exactly 40 hours or 38 hours or 37 and a half or maybe 45 sometimes, if the output that you require of them is getting you what you wanted when you set the targets? A lot of the evidence shows that people who work from home actually work more hours because their workstation is so accessible. And from a safety point of view, you've got to clock that as an issue, that people are not overworking and not logging in on weekends. We got a question too. Stephen, I might just grab the question as we go because it relates to this, and then I'm going to...
Yeah, I think that's fair in this instance.
High trust models work well until people start to take advantage of things. How do you suggest managing what the expectations are and how to communicate that with employees? Yeah, I think it's a really good question. It's really common, and it's people who have been burnt by this trust, and especially as business owners, we really feel it personally, right? It's sort of people have taken advantage of us, not just the company. I genuinely believe it's a minority issue. I don't think most employees do this, speaking from my own personal experience at MyHR as the business owner here, but also from speaking to our clients. When you find someone who's breached your trust, or let's be blunt, takes the piss, or takes advantage of that flexibility, the simple answer is you have to call it when you see it, right? This is no different to any other type of performance management. And it's funny how it shifts, that there's this fear of, because we're not seeing it in the office every day, it's more difficult to manage. I want to bring this remote working management piece back into the sphere of just normal day-to-day management. If someone's skiving off in the office, if someone's not doing the work they're doing, or they're failing to perform, the best thing you can do, and what we always advocate as your HR managers, is call it early. Start the process. Don't wait for 6 months, have a total freak out, and then you ring us up and go, this guy is just out of control and I need him gone. You go from kind of zero to dismissal in one conversation. That's never really going to work. So anonymous attendee, my advice is you call it early and you keep on it. How do you call it early, you might ask, if they're working from their bedroom and you can't see them? Well, you have really clear outputs. By the end of this day, by the end of this week, this quarter, whatever your cadence is, you have clear KPIs, and if they're simply not delivering it, you highlight it early. You might be, I think we've got a lot of clients here, so you might already be with MyHR. Use those smart notes, keep those notes, book a check-in, catch up with them every week, and front it. And often you will find, and we find this a lot, you never end up getting to disciplinary with those people who are genuinely dodgy if you just front them early, because they know they've been discovered and they'll often resign and go looking for someone who's not going to hunt them out. So that's how you deal with that. I don't want everybody to think that that is the norm, though. Most of our people come to work to do a good job and they want to perform. A lot of remote workers do more work, not less. So let's just be mindful of that as well. So hopefully that's answered your question. And I will get rid of the drop down that you probably can't see that's blocking my screen now. That's really, what I talk about with trust. And then the last piece here is the personalising of health and wellbeing office, which is a beautiful segue into what Stephen has found in the report, and it feeds directly what we have found as a service provider to the small and medium enterprise market here in Australia and in Canada. And what I can tell you is this is consistent across those three countries. So Stephen, unless you've got any questions for me, mate, I'll hand over to you, and I will.
I'm good to go, man. If you flick to the next slide, I might just ask you to go to the next slide after we have a couple of different comments. So as we get into employee health initiatives or well-being programs, the first thing I just want to call out is that well-being's a spectrum, right? You're on this journey of well-being, and it's a daily journey. There's things that you do within your day-to-day life that either move you up the spectrum of where you are within well-being or down the spectrum. And at some point within well-being, you go to unwell, but there's not a state of being well and achieving this state of wellness. It's about continually making sure that you're doing the right things to achieve well-being. And further to that, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Every single person within an organization, your diverse distributed team with a bunch of different employee types within an organization doing different things, all have different things that are part of their own well-being journey to help move forward with their own health and well-being. I also think something to call out is that it's noted here as well, organizations are recognizing that this social shift has occurred. I think we just need to acknowledge that younger staff coming into the workforce expect their employers to not only want the best of them in their workplace, but want the best for them when they're not in their workplace. And considering again that we spend up to 33% of the time that we're awake within a given 7-day period within our place of work, and then all of that time that we're sitting at home, Jason's talking about all of this time that we're spending at home, thinking about work, talking about work, sharing things about work with our spouses, our friends, our family. The employer is the primary beneficiary of the employee, of their staff member, their team member being healthy and being able to bring the best version of themselves into the workplace. And it says it here that ill health impacts businesses. I'm sure that we can all kind of reflect on our own experiences of whether it's been that we've been sick or we've had an injury or we've had something at home or something in another facet of our life that's distracting us from our work. We're unable to do the work to the best of our capability. We're unable to bring our whole self to that project, to that task, to that objective and key result that the business is looking for. So I guess, again, the point being here that it's about, as an employer, recognizing that you're not doing this because it's just a nice to have to the second point. You're doing this because it's a socially capitalistic approach to delivering better organizational outcomes. That's what we need to be saying to our business leaders. We're not doing this because it's just nice. We're doing this because we want a better business with better results. Jason, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, man, I think it's really good. And this is the whole point of ROI, return on investment. And I think it's Jack Welch. I can't remember, one of the many US billionaires. He's done all right for himself. But he had this laser focus on ROI because it's about the return. If you think generally it's accepted that around a third of the cost of a salary is the cost of having to onboard a new employee or the cost of turnover. So, if you've got a person on 50K and they quit, and you replace them into the same role at 50K, the cost to you is around 15. So any dollar you spend under $15,000 will yield a positive return if it serves to retain the individual who's already there and doing good work. And this is the point of what you're saying around EHIs as well. There is a genuine commercial benefit to this stuff. Healthy people work better. It's not just about stopping staff turnover. People may leave if they don't feel supported, they don't feel healthy. They might go find somewhere that does that. But nothing worse than having people who are operating below capacity, but afraid to leave. And then you've just got a whole nother sort of thing there. So I think this ROI piece is really gold. That's all I wanted to say, Stephen. Sorry.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I just want to kind of make everyone probably critically aware that having the employees, like an employee-centric approach to your employee value proposition and your employee experience and your employer brand ask them what they want, find out what your staff are actually looking for within a wellbeing program. The amount of times that I've walked into organizations that are attempting to do amazing things, and you've got a group of executives that have no real connection to the person on the front line, the blue collar worker that's doing the hard labor within an organization, that's tried to develop an employee wellbeing program, which when you actually look at the face of it is frankly designed for their employee customer profile rather than the customer profile, which is the majority of their workforce. It's kind of disheartening because what they're attempting to do is something so amazing, right? Like an example of this might be, if you have a large workforce, or even, it doesn't matter the size of the workforce. So if you have a workforce of lower or middle income earners, let's say they're on $65,000, $75,000 a year, and then you're saying to them, hey, we want to provide, just for the sake of argument, health insurance, and we're going to go and pick the health insurance provider that we're going to offer you. Like, if you haven't asked that person whether health insurance is the thing that's actually going to be meaningful for them, it's not going to improve their performance in the workplace. It's not going to improve their retention. You need, and frankly, the person that's earning $65,000 to $75,000 a year, if they're under a certain age group, isn't actually going to get the value from that solution, because they're not worried about health insurance. They're worried about putting food on the table, feeding their family, being able to access the day-to-day things that they currently are struggling to access because of the cost of living that they're exposed to within their macroeconomic situation. If we can move to the next slide, Jason, because this is where we get to ROI.
Yeah.
I just want to call out as well here that I think this is it's been a hard conversation for employers to wrap their head around, generally speaking, because pointing to a straight line return on investment for both health and well-being initiatives within organizations is hard. And I think it's hard for a number of reasons, right? I think the first being that employers don't always have, and I'm generalizing here, they don't always have a deep understanding of the metrics that matter. How many of their staff are taking absenteeism days? What is the absenteeism rate per employee? What does normal productivity within their organization look like? How is that productivity shifted over a time period? What is the average recruitment and retention period? And when we go and do averages, are we actually looking at the average relative to age and stage of different people within organizations? Because you could say our retention rate is 25%. But then if everyone's leaving in this period, and then you have a lot of people that stay for a long time, your retention rate isn't actually 25%. It's whatever this portion and that leave in the first portion of their employment. So that's kind of the call out here. So when you're getting challenged by leadership, or when you're challenging yourself around, is employee health and well-being actually going to deliver an ROI? I'll challenge you first and foremost to go back and look at the numbers, to then make sure that you've got a crystal clear understanding. So then when you deliver these experiences, you can go and look at what's actually moved and how you've shifted the needle. But that being said, the obvious things stand out here. It's about productivity, because as Jason's alluded to, a healthier worker that's able to come to work and perform at their best is likely going to be able to do the job more effectively. And we'll dive into more detail on that in the next slide. It's about recruitment and retention with employee-specific value propositions that meet their unique, diverse, and individualized needs. And it's about having a happy and healthy workplace where people want to come in, they want to participate, they want to be part of that team and part of that organization, not only today, but for the long haul. Do you have anything that you want to add there, mate?
No, other than I support it. It's 100% right. And I think from one of the things you said on the previous slide around asking, that is gold, like, go figure, right? But we're all guilty of this. But actually just ask your people what they want. You'll be amazed sometimes what you hear, and don't be afraid. Sometimes people freak out and go, well, what if they ask for, double the pay or this? It's like, let them kind of express what they're after, and then you can build it. HR people, my sort of crew, my tribe, we're really guilty of this. You go away and you investigate a bunch of Silicon Valley companies, and you come back with a report and go, here's what best practice employee value proposition looks like. It's like, there's not best practice. There's just an accumulation of a bunch of other company stuff that's played out to look like, quality statistics. Ask your people. I think that is gold. And when you do your annual planning, just fold this in. Productivity, recruitment, retention, staff morale. It's clear. This is not something kind of woolly and fluffy. These are tangible outcomes for your business. Build in what you will spend on these initiatives, what you expect to get back for them. Track it like you do anything. Is sick leave going down? Is productivity going up? Your bottleneck turnover is great, Stephen. You're totally right. An organization of 20 staff that has, 10 people have been there 15 years and 10 roles that turn over every 3 months. That speaks to a problem. It's something you've got to really look at. So no, thanks. That was great. I'll jump onto the next one for you.
Just to dive into productivity, or we may as well just go through the points first, then I'll kind of extrapolate. But obviously, mental health is a massive factor with respect to productivity. It's interesting, right? Again, like you think about when you reflect on your own experience of employment, and I've been working for a fair few years now, and I think as most people do throughout their adult life, you have periods where that are more challenging than others, and things within life happen as they do, and you just can't bring your whole self to work to think through the hard problems or to do the tasks that you would normally do to the best of your capability, and that has a massive impact. The psychosocial factors that affect your ability to work. And then there's a self-perpetuating cycle where if you're not able to do your best work, the thing that you probably get a lot of enjoyment from doing and from being able to be productive and participate within your working environment effectively, that then makes you feel like you're not able to go and do the things to the best of your capability. And then subsequently, it just, again, perpetuates. So being able to get in there and help employees and creating safe environments with employee-centric opportunities for them to go and resolve these problems, again, brings a more productive worker to your workforce. This presenteeism line, and I'm sure this is no surprise to anyone on the call, but in my early career, I used to always think about absenteeism as the biggest marker for cost in my business when I looked at non-work-based OPEX. But if you think about presenteeism as people coming to work and being bums on seats, but with no delivery, it starts to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable as a business leader and as a people leader, because you don't really know what to do with it, right? It's like you can't, how are you supposed to manage that conversation? It's quite challenging. They've turned up to work, they're doing the bare minimum, they're not achieving everything that they could achieve, and you expect more from them, but you haven't yet worked out how to get that out of them. So again, like showing that as a business that you care about them and you want the best for them and you expect the most out of them, it could be something really meaningful. Jason, again,
do you reckon this is more of an issue for people who are working from home, or do you think it makes no difference? Or maybe your data suggests that it doesn't matter whether you're turning up to a workplace or whether you're logging on from home to do your work, that presenteeism is an issue in both scenarios, or is it greater or lesser in one or the other?
I don't know the answer between working from home and working from work. My personal opinion around this topic is more that the things that result in presenteeism aren't being addressed appropriately. I think that, and I'm going to try and be diplomatic here, but I just think, why are organizations trying to pick the specific solutions that they're offering their employee base to try and resolve this problem? You think around mental health being the main thing on the slide here. There's 34 mental health and wellbeing apps on the App Store right now that are B2B SaaS. How do you know which one out of those 34 options is the best one for your employee? And then I think if we go one step further, once they are actually integrated, we start asking ourselves, like, well, why aren't we getting uptake? We see in our employee surveys that people want more support with their health and well-being. So we've gone and done this thing, but then no one's using the thing. Like, what's going on here? And I think the answer is that again, well-being and health and promoting well-being within an organization is a unique experience for every single one of your employees. So I just think, and we need to just, again, no one knows your employees like they do, right? So let's provide them with the thing that they need to access the thing, which is capital. They need money to be able to access and choose the benefit that's going to be best suited for them. But then how do we overcome obviously the balance of that, where we can provide control to or control around the parameters of where budget is able to be spent, because we want it to go to mental health. there's functions that obviously, again, HealthNow is here to deliver that experience for you, but there's ways that as an employer, you can provide your employees with that experience so they can actually go and get the thing that they need to solve their problem. And it might be counseling, it might be a mental health and wellbeing app, it might be access to a gym so they can get out and exercise. There's a bunch of different things, but you need to think about the lead indicators rather than just purely the lag outcome. And I think that's that again is what's hard about calculating ROI, because we talk about productivity. The next slide, we're going to talk about recruitment and retention, and it's like those frankly are the end results of all of the things that you've done in advance of trying to work out what those end results are. Yep. Apologies for not being able to directly answer that question of whether it's working.
No, it's it was the response was solid. We've got another question that's come in. I think it might be in the detail of the report. They're just asking about how did they arrive at 27 as a number. Is that, which study was that? And you may not even know. No doubt that 26-page report's got a large appendice index behind it of all the.
I don't have it offhand, but I can definitely get it sent out to you directly. The 27-page report's got about 3 or 4 pages of APA references, in addition to APA formatting throughout the document. So where it has commentary like this, you'll be able to go to the specific line item where it's referenced and go and fact check and do your own diligence if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I think, look, whether the detail of 27 or 26 and a half, whatever their final number kind of is, it's more that what I'm observing, and there has been some recent media focus on this sort of presenteeism idea, and it is a thing, and it is becoming more and more of an issue for employers. We're finding it. We're getting a lot of questions about it, and I think it goes without saying that somebody who is at work and not doing their work is not going to be productive, kind of whatever the number is. And so, how do you engage people more and more frequently in a more productive way?
And there's other things around it too, right? Like another example might be, you've got a scaffolding business and your staff are coming to work injured because they can't afford the physiotherapist, and thus they're struggling to lift the scaffolding overhead. And they're not communicating with you that they can't afford the $30 copayment because they don't want to be put into that indignified experience of admitting an economic challenge, or even they might not want to communicate with you as an employer around the way that they choose to prioritize their funds. So there's lots of different, when we talk about like presenteeism and productivity, it's not this one size, one stroke of the brush. There's lots of different reasons within each individual job description how productivity and the health and well-being and healthcare initiatives can come in, or the health of and well-being of the individual can come into play to affect that productivity and outcome.
Yeah, nice. That's a great example, actually, of that ACC sort of co-funded amount, because I think a lot of people, when we have this discussion about health and well-being at work, once you get past the kind of basic physical safety, we've got a safety committee, we've got a policy, we do some, we track near misses. It leaps suddenly into things like EAP services and mental health. But this is the point of what you're doing around it being all-encompassing. It might be funding or part funding your health insurance, whatever provider you choose. It might be part funding this injury recovery piece. It might be funding some over and above that might not be covered by ACC, but you go, actually, I kind of want to go to an osteo or a chiropractor, or I've got this, massage therapist I really like, and if I could just afford to go there. Might be gym membership. The spectrum of kind of health and well-being and what you could spend on as an individual is so broad. And some of it is absolutely based on immediate need and personal budget, and then turning up to work injured because you cannot afford to get the help you need to
or having longer LTIs, right? Because you don't get better and you don't recover, and you spend more time on the ACC system, or not going to the doctor on day one because you don't want to spend the $50 to go and see the doctor. Noting that there's obviously some challenges around getting into the doctor, but getting medication on day one obviously is going to get you back into work faster if you are actually sick. So it's just around kind of having these systems in place where their employer is able to reach in and support the employee in a more individualized way to get them back into the workforce faster. It just makes sense, right? Like it's interesting to me as well. just on this productivity and also this retention piece, we worked out that in the Industrial Revolution that productively and proactively maintaining our machinery, meaning trucks and construction equipment and factory lines, led to more productive outputs of said trucks, factory lines, and et cetera, right? We productively and proactively maintain planes to keep them in the sky because we don't want them spontaneously falling out of them, but yet we don't proactively and productively help the person that's driving the truck to maintain their own health and well-being. It doesn't make sense to me that, in one instance, we've worked this out so long ago, but then in the other instance, we're still sitting here arguing about whether we should be looking after the human that drives the machine.
R&M, right? The repairs and maintenance line that sits on every single P&L, and that includes, that's your plant, right? That's what you're spending on your plant and equipment. Yeah, man, that's a nice parallel.
Equipment doesn't do anything if it's not got a human to operate it. So moving into recruitment and retention, I think everyone on this call again probably knows this data just as well as I do. It's expensive to replace people. The process takes a long time. You've got to put job ads out. It removes your, if you're a business leader, it takes you away from running the business and puts you in a position of stress where you need to fill a role to make sure that your delivery milestones are able to continue to be met, and all of the other things that could happen where you lose a staff member. You think around the IP that leaves your business, again, so on and so forth. So I think when I look at recruitment and retention, and again, the employee value proposition and this line that seems to be popping up a lot for me as I go around and speak to HR professionals, which is employee experience. It's about having an employee experience that actually meets the individualized needs. Giving someone something that doesn't mean anything to them will not lead to them staying in your company. An example of that, again, crude example, if someone comes into your business and your business offers them health insurance and they've already got their own insurance provider, which offers a different product or whatever, and they don't have any intention of moving to their health insurance product that you're offering inside of your business, your insurance product you're offering them is not a benefit, and it's not equitably delivered across your whole organization. If you're offering gym subsidies or some form of payment to go towards gym memberships, but your employee doesn't access gyms or goes to their own gym or geographically isn't in a place where they can get to that gym very easily, it is not a benefit, and it's not something that's going to help you with recruiting or retaining your team. If you're currently offering, another example, if you're offering at work-based health assessments, and your employee doesn't turn up because they want to go to their own GP to get that health assessment and have all of their data in one place, again, it's not a benefit. So let's think about and ask our team, like what is actually a benefit for them? What is a health initiative for them that's going to make them feel special, make them feel loved as a part of your team, connect them to the brand in a more meaningful way to help them retain or help you retain the talent that you need? Because frankly, A players will always have a choice where they work, and they're always going to choose to work with the person that's doing, or that has that better employee value proposition, right? Which is a place where they enjoy working because it's meaningful for them, a greater purpose and some area that they can move to within the organization if that's something that's important to them, and a brand that actually cares about them as an individual, not just as a number. Do you have anything to add there from an HR perspective?
No, I really like it. And that is, we talk, I'm biased towards smaller employers because that's who we serve. And we have such an ability to be nimble around this and set us apart when we're in the market against larger employers who do have that. It's been decided on high that there's a health insurance benefit, and it applies to all employees. And there's just no scope in a 5,000 person organization to get any more flexible than that. There it is. And to your point, that's not a benefit to people who don't want it, don't need it, have something else already set up. And this creates friction to try and change to. It's our ability to speak to, listen to, and then react to what our employees' needs are within reason is one of our distinct advantage, and it's so powerful. And look, I think it's great. And the key is, I think technology is helping. For some people, the alarm bells ring around just administrative complexity. But you're not having to manually track this stuff on notepads anymore. Technology will do that for you, right?
Yeah, and I don't mean for this in any way, shape, or form to be a sales pitch, but like what I've done with HealthNow, right, is we've gone to the market and we've asked what the problem is, and the problem that we're getting communicated back to us was that it's administratively burdensome to provide individualized experiences for staff. It's hard to ask them because they all want different things, and we don't want to have to go out to market and have 40 or 50 or 60 different wellbeing initiatives or vendors. And how do we know how much, like, how do we control funds if we choose to provide them with some form of a reimbursable budget, which actually provides them with some level of individualized experience? And I think, and what we've been able to build, right, is just frankly the ability for you to say, here's $500 on a HealthNow account. Here are the sectors that it can be spent. If you say doctors, it's every doctor in the country from Kaitaia to Invercargill, and again, Perth to Brisbane. If you say gyms, it's every single gym within the country. And then let your employees go and take the card that you've provided them and tap that card at any one of the providers within the parameters that you've set up to the value you've contributed, so they can have that individualized experience. And you can build the perfect benefit structure for your employee base with a turnkey solution. That's what we're looking to provide you. We can probably go to that next.
No, I love it. I mean, I think we've actually got a question about it. And I know, look, we try, and whenever we frame the MyHR webinars, we talk a lot about we had to add some value and not get into a pitch. But actually, I'm more than happy to hear what you had to say, because I think it's a really valuable solution. We didn't, and I think the audience are interested in hearing it, because it directly addresses the problems we've identified. We didn't come here intending to kind of sneak people into some advertised, advertorial type program, but it's entirely relevant, and I'm keen to hear, because I also don't know a lot about it. One of the questions is, are you able to send out to all attendees a list of possible benefits we could use to get through our process, to get our thought process going? What are the most common things done, e.g. in-house health assessments, etc.? I think the answer is yes, we can. And I can provide some stuff from our experience as the sort of HR team, but Stephen, I reckon you'll have a bit. Let's make a note to do that.
I just think like the way I would like frame the answer to that question is, what's the perfect benefit that you can offer your employee base? And the answer will always be something that offers autonomy, choice, agency, so the ability to go and do what they need to do, and freedom to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, with who they want to do it, within some confined parameters, so that the funds that the organization is contributing are going to something that can be measured with respect to everything we're discussing here. So don't let the funds be spent at the alcohol shop or at the supermarket or on retail purchases. Set the parameters to doctor, dentist, physio, podiatrist, chiropractor, osteo, gym membership, insurance if you so want to offer insurance, because then you don't need to make decisions on providers or vendors. You can let your employees choose the vendor that they want to work with. Counseling is a really beautiful example, right? Like currently in organizations, EAP services has been a table stakes as all employers need to offer EAP. I think the industry average right now for EAP utilization is 6%, whereas 30% of an employee base within a 12-month period will feel a mentally distressing period of time. So what's that delta? Why is only 6% of an organization using a solution which his employer is paying for? And frankly, I don't know the answer why. I don't know why people aren't engaging. It could be that it's a telephone instead of whatever other means that they want to. But I think that if you said to your employee base, and we actually have this data, we see that with a HealthNow card, within the first 4 weeks, it's used at least once. So if you give your employee base funds and say, we care about your mental health, you can now go to every single EAP provider in the country if you want to, any of them. We don't care which one you go to. It's not up for us to make that decision. You can go to a counselor in the community, the one that your mum's referred you to, the one that you know your friend's using that had a really great experience. Or if you wanted to, tick the online function, and now they can go and pick from one of the 34 mental health and wellbeing apps, use the card number to then make an online purchase of that product. Again, it's the end of the day, the best solution that's going to improve productivity, recruitment retention, and staff morale is something that everyone gets to feel like they're in control, because they're adults. Like, we don't like to be told what to do. And so it's where we have the ability as an employer and as a people leader to provide that level of agency and autonomy. We should.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That EAP one is really interesting to me. I talk about this a lot at MyHR, and it seems a real perverse measure when you go, well, take up of counselling is really low. So there is no way only 6% of the workforce have had a tough month or a tough week or a tough day. It's like
100%.
We should celebrate kind of 100% utilization. Every single one of our team called someone independently this month and just kind of had a vent and felt better for it. We should be targeting maximum utilization, not minimum. It's a really interesting thing. We got a bunch of questions, so let's fire through those. The first one is, this is direct, mate. You're getting questions about your product. You're all go. You're going to make some money off this one. How do you ensure the employee is using the card and not family member or friend?
So that's a really hard one, right? And we do have a protection in place where you can turn on functionality to make sure that the device, if they allow for location to be set on, is in the same location or a relevant location to the EFTPOS terminal at the point of the transaction. But the short answer is, for most organizations, or a lot of organizations now, they're realizing that health and well-being of the whānau unit, or family unit for those that are tuning in internationally, is just as important as health and well-being for the individual. If you're stressed about your kid not being able to go to the doctor or not being able to do what they need to do, you're not going to be able to bring the best version of yourself to work. We met with someone yesterday, a large fishing company. Some of those employees were out on boats for 6 or if not 12 weeks at a time. When they're out on boats, frankly, having the ability for their family to use that card to access health and well-being is going to be a massive sigh of relief for that person that's out trying to produce for their family and go and do some hard work out in the deep seas of wherever they are. So the short answer is, it's up to you to create that policy inside of the business. We've got some protections in place, but let's think about how we can have a more holistic approach to health and well-being.
Thank you. There's a question around the mechanics of PAYE. So presumably this is classed as income. The question is, if we're putting money on the card, does it? So there's a gross amount, PAYE is deducted, the net amount lands on the card.
I'll just, again, first disclaimer, I'm not really here to provide tax advice, but I can tell you without doubt that it is not classified as income. It's classified as a business expense. The reason that that's true is because when an employer makes a notional contribution to an employee's HealthNow account, the employee doesn't take ownership of the funds, and at no point within their exposure to the funds owns the funds. And if they leave the employer, the funds are removed from the employee's HealthNow account, and the employee, within their time that they've got a HealthNow account with the employer, is purely a custodian and a controller of the piece of plastic that they're going to tap on different machines. So functionally, the transaction happens at a business expense line, not a personal expense line. And then you can choose how you want to navigate the FBT provisions within the Health and Safety at Work Act, depending on your internal health and safety policies. Probably worth calling out that EAP services is not subjected to FBT, despite the fact that a significant proportion of the calls that are being made are not purely about work-related things. They're about personal life things and finance things as well. But it's about making sure that that employee or that service is, or whatever you're looking to deliver, right, is removing the risk of that employee coming into the workplace and putting either themselves or other people within the workplace at risk.
Nice, thank you.
Chat to your tax advisor.
Yeah, we can't be giving tax advice, mate. We'll get in trouble for that stuff. Someone's made a comment about EAP, the issue being you have to ask your manager for access. I would challenge the EAP provider you have, because most EAP programs, and I'm talking right back from my days in corporate through to what we do at MyHR and to what many of our clients do in the programs we recommend, there is no link to the manager for the first 3 sessions. So the typical kind of off-the-shelf EAP provision benefit that is offered to employees is 3 free sessions per year for you or any one of your family. And then anything over 3 gets approval. So they should be able to access free sessions without talking to anybody within your organization, going directly to the counsellor and having no feedback back into the company.
Yeah, so I think again, I'm going to try and act with diplomacy here, knowing that this is going out live, but I'm sure the EAP companies know this to be true as well. I think you've touched on probably the hot topic of the day around EAP. That is a common misconception right there, right? That you have to go and talk to your employer to ask for counselling. How many people do you think are going to use a service where they think their employer has any information about said service. Whether they have information or not, I know EAP providers operate in an aggregated and anonymous way, as do we. But it's still, I think there is a perception by a number of employees within different organizations of, well, my employer might get that information and might change the way they treat me within my place of employment. So I think what we've tried to do, or what we have done within our user experience, is we operate completely as a blocker between the employee who wants to go and have experiences and the employer who wants to contribute value to those health and wellbeing experiences. And because the employee has a complete, unique and differentiated health account with a health card, which is their own personal experience, it feels a lot like a banking experience. And we do not provide the data back to the employer on where individuals have gone and done things. We provide it back on an anonymous and aggregated way.
Nice, thank you. We're down to the last 9 minutes. There's a question around giving the value. If you give a dollar value on the card to spend anywhere, do employers tend to give staff some ideas on who they can approach? I think you've answered that. You mentioned that you can set those providers, whether it's all doctors from Kaitaia to Bluff, whether it's physio, chiro, EAP. You set that as an employer. Am I right?
I think just to really hone in, right? So every single one of your employees would get a card that looks like this. It's a normal card. I can't flip it around because it's got some payment numbers on it, and then I'll be giving my card out, but you'll have to take my word for it. It's got my number, my own personal name and number on the back of it. And as everyone on this call will know, MasterCard is ubiquitously accepted at every single payment terminal across, almost every single payment terminal across New Zealand, Australia, and internationally. I think there's about 80 million vendors around the world. What HealthNow has built and what our secret sauce is the ability to, in real time, know where that card has been tapped and receive all of the terminal identifying information to then be able to accept or decline based on the rule set that an employer has chosen to provision within their plan. So again, an employer can create this really unique experience, which provides a lot of room for an employee to navigate within. So you could have all of the things under the sun within employee health and wellbeing, or you could have a really tight plan, which would only allow them with doctors and dentists for argument's sake. But when you have that experience and you turn on a sector, every single provider in that sector that has a payment terminal that accepts MasterCard will instantly be made available to every single one of your employees for them to go and personally choose how they want to tap the card.
And how do we communicate that to our employees? Is that through the app? It's some sort of internal comms, so it's clear to the team they're not going to turn up somewhere expecting to have payment covered and be declined. Like, is that what's the communication mechanism?
Yeah, so the application looks exactly like a best-in-class banking app. They've got how much money they can spend and where it can go on a sector-by-sector specificity, and then we also push it to a Google search to show them different options within that sector. If they were to go to something that was a little bit left field, which frankly does happen, you see the odd bar transaction or supermarket transaction attempted, we send them a notification to let them know why it's been declined and push them back to their own app experience to then say, hey, this isn't one of your covered areas. Please make sure you're using the card within a covered area. And then there's, as you would expect, a bunch of onboarding information that's sent out to educate both organizations and employee bases on what's best for them.
Nice. Chocolate and wine don't count as part of your mental health budget. I get it. We're running down.
Unless the employer wants to, right? I think this is kind of, I wanted to speak to this slide, right? Like, and we've kind of really been beating the drum, and I think HealthNow, in all honesty, we're trying to lead this beating of the drum around individualized experience. Make sure that you're providing your employees with something that they can actually utilize within their health and wellbeing experience, or health and wellbeing experience. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. Don't just bring something on that's got a fixed cost and stupidly variable utilization. Look at the utilization as your metric for success. Bring something on that's going to actually deliver value to the individual that they want to go and utilize and do get benefit from, because that's what's their employee participation. It's in the middle of the screen. That's what's actually going to lead to a return on investment of that spend. Spending money that then doesn't have any uplift of your employees utilizing whatever you're spending money on, it's not a good idea because frankly, you won't, there's no ROI there. Let's make that the focus point.
Yeah, totally. I love it. You heard it here first. That's the SME advantage, man. That's what we've been talking about. And I know you're broader than SME. I'm just being biased to our audience here because we, more than bigger organizations, can do this so well. And what you're hearing from Stephen is the evidence backs it up. The data backs it up. It's a global data set. It's fed up from employees. And I think if we start thinking like this, we will get so much more in terms of return. So more for less, essentially, is your positive return on investment, right?
And if you are in the SME boat, right, I think the last thing I would probably say in addition to that is just that it's been so hard for SMEs for a long time to compete with the big players in the market, right? We don't always have the same budgets. We don't have the same amount of headspace and time. We don't always have one full FTE to be able to deliver an employee experience. Use technology, use the things that are available to help you deliver an experience which will make you and keep you competitive within a broader market. Like here's an opportunity for you to now go toe to toe with any other organization and literally have go from wherever you are within your well-being journey to a best-in-class experience instantly.
Yeah, magic. All right, mate, we're getting close to the end. I think I've just sandwiched the questions out because we've kind of squeezed them out. Sorry, because we've sort of taken them as we go. I mean, this is your slide, but I like I'm going to start and then I'll let you finish. Sorry to cut you off, but this identify your objective piece is key to me. We talk about this so much with our clients around, start with the vision. What's the outcome? What do you want? It's not one foot in front of another. It's look up, scan the horizon, and make your plan. What are your objectives? Once you have those defined, then bringing that down to the specific actions that you will take is so much easier. And then measuring the success of those actions. And let's say, like, it might not work first time, but that doesn't mean you throw the whole thing out. You learn, well, what we had a crack and either the money wasn't spent or the feedback from employees wasn't that great or staff turnover didn't really change. So, okay, where did we go wrong? Because we're measuring this against clear objectives, tweak it, make it better. And once you get it right, it's gold. So I just wanted to call that one out. Stephen, have you got anything to say on this before we wrap?
My only last thing to kind of finish on, other than thanking everyone for their attention and participation today, is just go away and acknowledge that, like, you're trying to serve a diverse, distributed organization with a bunch of different individuals that want to have autonomy, choice, and agency just like you do. Think about that when you're designing strategies, because answering those questions and delivering an experience which meets their unique needs is how you're going to actually deliver a return on investment. That's the crux of it. Make it equitable, because equity, frankly, equity and a socially capitalistic approach to delivering outcomes, like, it's good for everyone involved. You have better, healthier employees, which are more productive, which feel better in their communities and in their families, which then self-perpetuates to bring a better employee back to work again. And there's this positive well-being cycle of productivity and profitability that you have the opportunity to start. And it comes from the people leader, the business leader, the forward-thinking, growth-orientated, like, business mind, which is willing to put their flag in the ground and say, we care about our people and we want to change the way things have been done and we want to have a better outcome.
Nice, thank you. We have a final but quite long question that I'm going to make the call to take offline because it's also quite in depth. And we're about to hit the 1 hour mark, and we do like to keep to time because we know people have busy schedules. So and to the anonymous attendee who's posted that question, we will respond to you, to the group. My marketing team deal with all that. We'll handle that. And that is us for today. I want to thank you all very much. I've really enjoyed it. It goes really quick. Okay? I'm just like, oh man, I could keep talking for hours, which is probably why they forced me to stick to 1 hour. Stephen, you've been really insightful. We can totally see why we're connected, why we're talking. So much of what you're saying aligns to things we've been talking about for a while in our particular sector. Love what you're doing. Look forward to doing more of it. And to the audience, thank you so much. It's been great to reconnect to you. We will see you again.
Thanks, team.